My name is Antonio Ranieri, head of the Department for Vet and Skills here at Cedefop, and it's my privilege to welcome you on behalf of the team to our virtual get-together on lifelong guidance. Maybe you know Cedefop is finalizing a new reference framework and a set of policy guidelines for lifelong guidance, a fair bit of work actually, together with CareerNet experts, DigiEmployment, and the tireless coordination of my colleague Cynthia Harrison. Today, we would like to give you a sneak preview of this work and also the opportunity to engage in a conversation with a panel of very well-placed and knowledgeable speakers. Needless to say, we owe a huge debt and recognition to the work done by the former ELGPN network for developing this unique tool, which we believe has contributed to improve the quality and effectiveness of career learning experiences across Europe. Actually, it was precisely 10 years ago that the guidelines were published. So in a sense, we are celebrating also the anniversary. Since then, a lot has happened. It has become a cliche, unfortunately, but to say that we are living through uncertain times, but this is the reality, and a fundamental unpredictability of the world of work, and a growing need for people to adapt throughout life, as you know. We believe that the gap between potential needs and actual demand for guidance is high today and will increase in the next future. And this is true for adults for more obvious reasons, shifting jobs, mobility, longer working lives, and for young people. Latest data that I looked yesterday confirms that young people are changing jobs more frequently. It takes longer to become established in the labor market. It is more common for students in tertiary education to work and for young people in employment to return to education and training. So basically, we all need to become a bit career guidance experts. That is to be able to identify our own needs, stay informed about labor market changes and opportunities, update our skills and competencies, accumulate credentials, and so forth, all the things that you know. That's a lot of work, honestly. People need help with all this, and that's why we consider guidance, as economists say, as a merit good of growing importance in our societies. In this context, we, experts, practitioners, policymakers, also need to improve our skills, and we need to make sure that careers guidance is flexible enough to react to the changing context and priorities. And this also includes updating and improving our standards and guidelines that otherwise risk fading away and losing relevance. Cedefop has worked to reinforce those features that we believe are the main strategic value of the guidelines. First of all, these guidelines still represent the only comprehensive EU-wide policy framework for lifelong guidance, supporting all citizens at any age, at any point in their lives, to make educational, training, and occupational decisions. Second, they are developed in a way to facilitate benchmarking, review, improvements in guidance, offering reference points for all relevant sectors, including education, training, labor market, social inclusion. Importantly, the new guidelines feature improved integration across the different sectors and policy areas and incorporate current policies like better skills development and utilization. It addresses social inclusion as a cross-cutting dimension, and what's more, I would say, are being developed into a user-friendly web tool for monitoring and self-assessment that will be directly connected to Cedefop's inventory on guidance systems. So, as I said, we are working on this closely with the European Commission. In a while, Aline Jurges will share some insights on the EU policy context, but DigiEmployment actually contributed to our work. This is a collaborative effort. And so let me give a special thanks to Florian from ETF, I know is here, and Pedro from the ILO, to our experts at the Finnish Institute for Educational Research, Janna Kettunen and Raimo Vorien, and more generally to all CareersNet members, Cedefop's network of independent and voluntary experts for their really valuable support. So with that, I wish you a productive conversation, and I would give the floor to Cynthia.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Antonio, for that warm welcoming. Hopefully everybody is entering okay. Thank you, Antonio, for setting the stage for today and going forward. My name is Cynthia Harrison. As Antonio said, I'm here at Cedefop at the Department for Veteran Skills and leading the strand on lifelong guidance and this project. We're very happy on my side to greet so many people here today, and it seems like we're increasing slowly as the morning goes by. So my job is to quickly introduce some information on the main program in line with our virtual get-together style. Everything is kind of compact. And first, I should mention before I forget that later on, you should look out in the chat. Later, we will be posting a feedback form, and we'd really like to hear from you. So if you have a chance, please fill out the form. For the program today, as you know from the event page, it's quite brief in light of our virtual get-together style. We have a preview of the project, the framework and guidelines Antonio mentioned, which I will present. We have 2 panels of speakers who will have some brief and insightful words for us. Time will be tight, but we really wanted to invite all these panelists and speakers to show you in a short time the great diversity of the guidance systems, which is reflected in the framework. We will hopefully have another opportunity next year for a longer event. Our main aim today is to spread awareness of what we're working on, though briefly, and we thought it was worthwhile to do this now instead of waiting until the work is published later this year. So it'll be quite dynamic and quick pace. We don't have in this way, we don't have a question and answer session, but we are really happy to receive your emails and feedback via the CareersNet email. You can find on the CareersNet webpage, I believe that has been added to the chat, and you will see the many things added to the chat throughout this event. You can reach us there, and we will be happy to respond, and we welcome your comments, of course, also in the chat. One other reminder you saw on the slide earlier at the very beginning is the meeting is recorded, and that means it will also be available eventually on our event page. So without further ado, we would like to pass the floor now to Aline, who Antonio already welcomed. Aline, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Antonio and Cynthia, for also having invited me to today's virtual get-together on this new framework on lifelong guidance. Before looking at the latest news from Brussels on skills and career guidance, let me also stress, like Antonio said, that I think it's really important to have this framework. It will be a very useful tool for policymakers and practitioners alike, and it brings lifelong guidance to the fore, which is always very good news. The framework is also a useful tool, I think, for identifying topics that can be important for policy cooperation, for mutual learning, and also for the collection and use of evidence. I think we need this guidance framework to show stakeholders how effective career guidance can work in practice and how interconnected guidance is at the interface between lifelong learning and the labor market. But career guidance is so much more, and it is also, it helps individuals to develop career management skills. This is one part of the framework as well. One chapter is dealing just with career management skills. It helps economies to become more efficient and societies to become fairer, particularly at a time of rapid transition and ongoing transformation and uncertainty. So let me now turn to what has happened most recently at EU level in the area of skills. So since the 5th of March, we have a Union of Skills, which was also planned already in the political guidelines by our Commission President. So it is a new strategy that will provide individuals across Europe with the necessary skills, supporting their personal growth and workplace development. So why a union of skills? Well, as you know, I don't think I have to repeat it, but Europe faces a number of challenges, in particular shrinking working age population, skill shortages, and education training systems, which adopt and transform maybe a little bit slowly. Nearly half of young Europeans lack basic digital skills, and SMEs struggle to find skilled workers. So the Union of Skills tries to address these challenges. And it is, as I said before, it's a very comprehensive strategy that will hopefully move Europe forward and increase its competitiveness. Part of the added value of this Union of Skills is that it is connecting all the dots and that it covers all levels of education and training, upskilling and reskilling, and all types of skills. And the strategy will be implemented through several key initiatives and actions, some of which you are certainly familiar with, like the individual learning accounts or the Pact for Skills, while others are new initiatives. So I will give you just very few examples, because in total, I think the Union of Skills has 52 actions. So I will not go through 52 actions, but just highlight some of the most important ones. So let me start with the aim of the Union of Skills to build stronger educational foundations of the young population. So skills starts basically with education. So the Commission is putting forward here an action that aims to reverse the alarming decline in performance in basic skills like reading or science. So that is aimed really at young people so that they gain strong literacy, math, science, and digital skills. Then also for the education sector, there is the STEM Education Strategic Plan, which is proposed that will promote STEM careers and improve skills in science, technology, engineering, and math. And it also aims to attract more girls and women into a STEM profession. So that's just two actions for the education sector. Now we're coming to the upskilling and reskilling, and so more to the adults. So as you know, 4 in 5 businesses struggle to find workers with the right skill sets. There are more than 40 occupations with EU-wide shortages, especially in important sectors like construction, trades, transport, and some healthcare professions. And only 40% of adults do some form of training, which is far below the target of 60% we want to reach by 2030. So that's why the Union of Skills is really proposing regular upskilling and reskilling. That should become the new norm, promoting continuous skills development, including expansion of micro-credentials, strengthening the Pact for Skills, and also to continue with the implementation of the so-called ILAs, the individual learning accounts, which empower individuals to manage their own learning pathway, including through career guidance. And then the third element is which aims to move skills around. I mean, it's called allowing skills to circulate, and that is an initiative which is more related to our single markets. So to open up more opportunities for workers and businesses, and for skills to be deployed across the Union without any obstacles. We will launch a skills portability initiative by 2026. So this initiative will make it easier to validate skills, to recognize qualifications across the EU independently of where they were acquired. So this initiative will obviously have very strong links with validation of non-formal and informal learning, And this initiative will also promote the use of digital credentials. And last but not least, that's the fourth element of the Union of Skills. It's about attracting, developing, and retaining talent, so that the EU becomes a global magnet for talent. We must encourage not only third country nationals, but also our own citizens to choose Europe for work and for study. So that's basically the fourth element of the Union of Skills. So what does that all mean for career guidance? Well, let me just stress that career guidance is essential for many of these initiatives I've just outlined. As we always say, the career guidance is the red thread which underlies or which underpins our initiatives. If we consider, for example, programs I mentioned before, working at the education level, such as promoting basic skills or more STEM skills for girls, it goes without saying that guidance is an essential enabler for developing these skills in young people. If you take the new VET strategy, which is also going to be developed under the Union of Skills, we will have to talk about career guidance, as it is an essential part to help make VET, vocational education and training, in Europe more attractive to young people and increase participation. Also, career guidance remains essential to the work of the public employment services. It is one of its core services, provided to both employed and unemployed job seekers. Just for your information, the PES network, which is the network of all the European PES at EU level, will launch a study at the end of this year on career guidance. So that shows also that the priority there is still very clearly focused on career guidance. So just in a nutshell, to help achieve the Union of Skills and its actions, we need coordinated and quality guidance to be an integral part of the ecosystem supporting skills and competence development. And this is even more crucial in our fast-changing societies with, as Antonio said, it's persistent uncertainty and crisis, really. So with that, I would like to stop, and I would just like to congratulate Cedefop and CareersNet once again for having developed this new framework. It was a pleasure to contribute to that work too. So I look very much forward to the discussions today, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Aline. Thank you very much for all the support and the continued support and collaboration. So thanks a lot. Hello, everyone. Actually, my name is Ernesto Villalba. I'm also an expert here at Cedefop, working on career guidance, but maybe most of you know me because I work in the area of validation of non-formal and informal learning. But now I give the floor, and I will be moderating the event together with Cynthia. So I actually give the floor now to Cynthia to introduce the framework. Cynthia.
Okay, thank you, Ernesto. Once again, it's very dynamic. We're going back and forth. I'll try not to speak too quickly, but we do want to make it in time. So apologies, there will be a recording afterwards. So thank you for the introduction. The speakers this morning have already provided some key background to my presentation and relevant policy, and previewed what's interesting and of value, which means I can try to make mine a little bit shorter and concentrate on helping everyone understand the framework, some of its parts, and how we try to increase its value. Again, you can watch the recording later. This is an in-house project, so we were working with the colleagues and the guidance project strand, as Antonio said, and with the support of our network, CareersNet, our EU Plus network of independent experts. And I know many of the experts are here in the audience today. Some are speakers, and we owe a great appreciation to them. So coming to the definition, as everyone has already touched on more or less, I just always show this to make sure we're on the same page. I usually show this slide when I present to diverse groups who may not be familiar with this. It's still valid, enduring. We use it in our network, our work as an overarching meaning. And underneath, inside this, are, of course, as you know from the field, many variations of guidance, educational, vocational, career orientation, and so on. So it works. It's also quite similar to what is used by other organizations, also outside of Europe. So this makes our cooperation quite easier. Cedefop participates in an interagency working group together with other European international agencies, and we produce joint leaflets and advocacy work. This may eventually appear in the chat. And this is compatible, our common vision is compatible with this definition as well. It's important to stress the lifelong aspects, the inclusiveness, the enabling aspect, and the skills and capacity building embedded therein. And finally, the managing individual life paths in learning and work in other settings is also critical. So the provision of lifelong guidance transcends the policies in education, training, employment, youth, social policies. It's a public interest policy, and it recognizes people differ in the skills and capacities to source information, make meaningful decisions, and act on those decisions in their different life paths. So guidance is a response to this. Information provision, of course, is there for careers, for planning and action, and it's obviously included and something common in career services, but we like to stress the wider skills and competence aspect, which in turn enables other outcomes and facilitates other types of learning. I'll run through just to mention CareersNet again, just because they were supporting this effort, and I wanted to give some more details for those of you not familiar with the network. The CareersNet are contact points in the countries in a range of sectors, and they have expertise in career development, backgrounds in research, practice policy across different sectors in education. They apply based on a call for experts, and they're selected based on eligibility and selection. So we have one core expert and one alternate in some cases, not in all cases. And among these experts, many have long-term experience in the field, in the public sector, government, research, analysis, practitioner training, and program and guidance services management and administration. We engage in many different types of activities, ad hoc, exchange, and they contribute to our lifelong guidance inventory of systems and practices. We'll be contributing with more records there in 2025. So on to the framework. Moving into the content, like the previous guidelines, the draft framework provides advice and information that reflects learning and working and broader career development over the lifespan. It covers publicly provided guidance service for youth and adults in the education, training, and labor market sector and settings, and in social inclusion and at-risk contexts. Policy issues are covered that are commonly found in all EU countries and beyond the EU, and are adaptable to all the different sectors, including very much civil society, private and public partnership arrangements. The framework's contents are applicable regardless of the mode of provision or the delivery, so online, in-person, distance, digital, or where otherwise specified. Although there are similarities across countries in Europe, the guidance systems, as everyone knows, are organized and evolving in really different ways, and the framework recognizes these differences and similarities. For example, some systems may have a very strong sector-based approach versus maybe a networked approach, or all-age career services that operate across different contexts. It's recognized that the national policy developments and reforms are ongoing and dynamic, not necessarily and not linear, where changing governments or internal factors can really have an impact on the policy and the provisions and the changes. This new framework intends to stay, again, focused on the policy level and flexible enough to remain current, stable, and forward-looking to support systems development. So about the principles underlying, which is a little bit, it's going to be, yeah, it's hard to fit this in a short presentation. But before I show you the structure of the guidelines, we think it's really important to take a minute to share the set of operational principles. This will be partly familiar to anybody who's been working in this field for a long time and knows the 2015 guidelines. These elements are are also common to other guidelines and other frameworks, even outside of guidance and in education and training more generally. So we bring these all here in one place because they're fundamental. Too many to go into in detail, but I do want to mention one quick, let's say, sentence per element. So user-centered means that publicly funded guidance services and products exist to serve individuals and groups, and this comprises all members of the public. And such services and products are accessible without discrimination in a flexible and secure manner, allowing for their personalization as well. Individuals and groups have a key role in their design. Holistic and inclusive, which relates, of course, directly that these services and products recognize and consider the life experience, stages, and diversity, and the social and economic circumstances of individuals. Ease and equity of access. Individuals can access publicly funded guidance services and products through different multiple channels and allowing for a universal design approach. They have access to an adequate level of services. Transparency, the individuals, the users are made aware and understand the nature of the services provided, the process and procedures, and the rationale behind these. Already mentioned today, career management skills, individual and group differences, that the policies for these services recognize that people, groups, societies, communities differ in their skills and competencies to manage their learning and work pathways. These policies support users to become competent at planning and managing their pathways. Stakeholder participation and openness. All stakeholders participate in the development of policies and systems. They're willing to share their knowledge, strategies, methods, concepts, data, tools, evaluations, and consider shared funding arrangements to improve problem solving. Efficiency, effectiveness, we have a few here at the end that are closely tied to quality assurance and monitoring and evaluation, namely that the services and products are able to demonstrate their added value and return on investment. Evidence-based policy development, the best available research is continuously incorporated into policy debates and decisions. They are outcome and impact focused. The outcomes related to learning, employment, economic, and social outcomes. That the services are professional, and the professionalization of services and tools are developed and implemented in accordance with national and other relevant standards that are already in place. And staff who carry out lifelong guidance activities have the required knowledge. Finally, the integrated policy approach, and this is becoming more and more important because the policies for guidance are an integral part of education, training, employment, youth, social, and other policies and skills, as Aline referred to. While lifelong guidance is viewed as also can be viewed as a self-standing policy with its own quality standards, and so it's important that the coherence is improved. And continuous improvement, all of this, it's important that the systems development is based on a continuous feedback cycle. Just to, if we didn't mention it already, the users of the guidelines, so they're mainly addressed to policymakers across these different sectors that have already been mentioned. And they're also useful for service providers, social partners, especially civil society actors, and the general public. So we have a blend of, let's say, policy language and technical field language. And in our guidelines, we make better connections between these sectors. And we mention the new and emerging areas for guidance. Coming to the slide we've been waiting for, maybe. We have kept the same basic structure, but changed some of the titles, the content, and references to new EU policy accordingly. And these are, let's say, our working titles now. So some details were already shared about our changing societies and the added value of this work. And we have a new, we see this as a, let's say, a new package, a whole framework. And this package we've built on the solid foundation, what's already there. And we enhance this work based on new national developments we've observed in our reviews of the guidance systems contributed to the inventory. Some are not yet online. EU policy developments, as I said, and priorities, and also our expert inputs from the CareersNet experts in our working group. And they are also linked to other networks and other stakeholders, such as Euroguidance. We have professional associations and national stakeholders, and through our consultation process that you'll read about when we publish the work. This is just to name a few steps, and some we leave open until we publish. So we're very thankful also to the Cedefop colleagues working here in different teams and areas who shared their expertise with us on their particular thematic areas. So we owe thanks to all these people. So as you can see here, the framework's 18 guidelines as we have it right now. We have transversal guidelines. These are, let's say, the core guidelines. There are 9 of them in yellow, which are common policy fields in each country or system. We have 6 sectoral guidelines for users across education, training, and the labor market. We have the 3rd dimensional section, which is the 2 guidelines there in the bottom, 17 and 18, which are to ensure these elements are never overlooked in policy and services design. So these are for certain at-risk groups, and also the context. And according to our approach, these we see as part of all the other guidelines as well. And this is why we call them dimensional guidelines. So once we have, as Antonio hinted, we will have an online interactive tool. It'll be easier to make connection between the social dimension and all the others, and we'll have checklists and so on for monitoring. So the whole framework includes all these parts. We'll have an introduction where the latest and most relevant aspects of EU policy in education, training, the labor market are defined and developed. We have an international aspect here with the joint agency working group I mentioned, and this includes many cooperation partners and this common vision we develop, such as ILO, OECD, ETF, UNESCO, and also the Public Employment Service have contributed, and of course the European Commission. We've also cooperated with ICC, DPP, and IAEVG as well. So in the introduction, we have specific policies and themes of important and priorities. Each guideline is structured in the same way. That's the next bullet. We have a methodology section as well. And then each one is structured according to a definition, what that guideline is about, a section describing why that area is important in each of the 18 guidelines, or however many we end up with in the end. And these are often stated in terms of outcomes. The next section lists what are some features of good or ideal models for systems and policies. And also we have resources for policymakers, footnotes to help understand some of the technical terms. And we'll collect all of those footnotes in the glossary. Finally, for something different, we created this cube. We wanted to see the whole framework and set of guidelines together, what it could look like. Where there are obvious interlinkages between the different sections, the transversal, sectoral, and social exclusion, inclusion, where we see exclusion as cutting across all the guidelines. I probably am running out of time, so key milestones and step. I'm not going to go into this detail. I think the main point is that Yellow Square will be publishing the guidelines in 2025. And where we've gone through, several steps, also with different, let's say, settings, stakeholders, opportunities for discussion and inputs and interaction on the guidelines. So that's all for now. Hopefully I gave you enough of a preview to pique your interest and this set the stage for the upcoming panel discussions.
Thank you, Cynthia. So thanks for the presentation. As you saw, it's a long process. And if you have any questions or comments on the presentation, as we don't have a Q&A today, you can, as we have said, you can reach us through email or put your comments in the chat, and we can take them into account when we are finalizing the framework. We are right on time, so I'm happy that Cynthia managed to squeeze the information in there, and we are going to go now to the panel. As you know, we have two panels today, and we both, Cynthia and I, will be moderating. So the first panel, that is kind of titled why is this framework important? As Cynthia was saying, one of the elements of each of the guidelines is this one. And what we want here is to show what is the relevance from different vantage points. So for this, I'm very lucky that we have three distinguished guests. I will call them friends even, and they have contributed substantially to the work that we have been doing. And you can find their full bios in the event webpage. So first, I have Pedro Moreno da Fonseca, a lifelong learning specialist at the ILO. Thank you, Pedro, for being with us here today. We have Emma Perme, Education Development and Quality Officer at the Ministry of Education in Slovenia, and a member of our CareersNet advisory group and the working group that has been working on this framework. It was actually, you have seen it in the last slide, that it was in Slovenia when we started this process already 2 years ago, no more, 3 years ago, in our 5th careers meeting. And it was actually organized online because of the COVID. And, it was the Slovenian government with the Ministry of Education was our partner organizing it. And it was during the Slovenian presidency of the council. So Cedefop was really honored to be part of the events that was added to the Slovenian president calendar as a companion event. So thank you, Emma, for being with us and all your support. And last but not least, Jana Kettunen, that, as Antonio already mentioned, a professor of the lifelong guidance at the Finnish Institute of Educational Research at the University of Jyväskylä. She has been working with us substantially on this. She's the president also of the IAEVG, I think it's a tongue twister, the International Association for Educational and Vocational Guidance, and she's also part of our CareersNet advisory group and the working group doing this. So Jana, I'm going to start with you. And really, you have been working very intensively with us on the development and drafting of this framework, also with Raimo, Vorinen, and we cannot really be more grateful. So thank you so much. It has been a fantastic ride, I have to say. And so the framework really well, and therefore I would like, just from your point of view, you have been working on this for many, many years, which guidelines or elements in the framework which are transversal would you highlight, and why would you do so? Jana?
Well, thank you for the question. Well, instead of highlighting the importance of one specific guideline, I think it's more important to see the guidelines as an illustration of lifelong guidance practice and policy as a systemic entity, and the interconnectedness of both the transversal and sectoral guidelines. Keeping this in mind, I would like to emphasize that all the elements in the framework are important. However, if I were to highlight few elements, I would highlight some of them that form the core foundation across the system. First, the foundation lies in professionalism in lifelong guidance. Competent, well-trained, and ethically grounded career practitioners are critical to ensuring that individuals and groups can trust on high quality and meaningful support on questions relating to careers and transitions. Investing in initial training, ongoing professional development, and clear competent frameworks strengthen the credibility, effectiveness, and impact of guidance services across all the sectors. Building on that, quality assurance processes are crucial for ensuring the consistency, transparency, and continuous improvement of services. Quality standards, monitoring systems, and feedback mechanisms protect the public interest, foster trust in services, and provide evidence for strategic improvements. They also ensure that lifelong guidance remains user-centered, impartial, and responsive through different stages of life. Complementing quality assurance, evidence-based policy and system development ensures that lifelong guidance policies and practices are grounded in comprehensive and reliable data and ongoing analysis. Systematic collection and use of evidence help identify needs and demands of services among different user groups, targeted services, strengths and gaps, support strategic planning, demonstrate the cost effectiveness and impact of services, and promote innovation and accountability across sectors and contexts. Finally, to bring all these elements together, governance and leadership based on cooperation and coordination are vital. Shared vision, stakeholder involvement, cross-sectoral collaboration, and transparent coordination mechanisms enable lifelong guidance to be integrated across education, employment, social, and youth policies, ensuring its long-term impact and responsiveness to societal needs over time. So, lengthy response to your question: professionalism, quality assurance, evidence-based policy and system development, and governance and leadership based on cooperation and coordination are the elements that I would highlight, since together they form the foundation across the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jana, and also for speaking so clearly and much slower than I did. And so we can understand very well. So this leads us now for a question for Emma about the area, a little bit what you were speaking about, Jana, our guideline 5, which is relating to governance, strategic leadership, cooperation, and coordination. Quite a long title for now. And this intersects with other key policy areas, as Jana mentioned. Emma, what are your views and experiences in this area of framework, or what would you like to add here?
Well, thank you, Cynthia, for this introduction, but also Jana, because, but also other speakers. Actually, your director already have been telling something about importance about governance and strategic leadership, but also Aline from European Commission. So I would say that guideline 5, which is dedicated to governance and strategic leadership, provides a strong foundation of lifelong guidance systems. It offers a valuable framework that supports system-wide thinking, enabling more coherent and collaborative approaches across education, but also employment, training, and social services, but also some other sectors. Governance and strategic leadership is essential, as it was already said a few times, to ensure that guidance system can support fair and effective transitions throughout the life course of individuals. At the core of GL5 is the principle that career guidance should be accessible, inclusive, and user-centered. So focused to the principles. This means ensuring that services are available and responsive to people at all ages, backgrounds, and all circumstances, and that they support individuals not only at single point of transition, but throughout their life course as well. Strong governance helps ensure that guidance systems are not fragmented or reactive, but instead part of a strategically led and coordinated structure. This includes having clear mandates, roles, and responsibilities of all partners involved, institutional frameworks and mechanisms for cooperation across sector and levels of government, which means on a national level, but also on a regional, local level and institutional level. GL5 also promotes structured multi-stakeholder collaboration, bringing together actors from education, labor, social affairs, and economic sector as well, and civic society, employers, providers, and so on. This cross-sector approach is essential to align guidance with broader policies such as upskilling and reskilling for adults, as it was already mentioned, social inclusion, validation of prior learning, and workforce mobility. Another important element is evidence-based development, collecting data and monitoring user outcomes, which Jana is going to tell more about it. So finally, stakeholder participation and openness are critical to create systems that are legitimate, effective, and sustainable. Engaging users, service providers, policymakers, and social partners ensures that guidance reflects the diversity of needs and remains relevant in changing context. In short, GL5 enables countries and systems to move beyond fragmented initiatives towards integrated, strategic, and future-ready career guidance that serves individuals throughout their life, learning, and career journey. And tackling also the professionalism and professionalization of guidance practitioners, which is a key part of the framework. Continuous training, the use of competence framework, and the integration of digital tools are necessary to maintain quality and ensure that guidance is fit to the digital age. With these components, I mean the guidelines, all guidelines are very much connected. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Emma. Thank you very much. Also very clear and makes it very easy for us here in the panel. These are really important overarching points and really clear messages. Coming back now, we'll go back again and we'll turn back to Jana again. I'd like to follow up a little bit on what Emma mentioned about professionalism and competence of guidance practitioners, and in addition to others who may support career development in different contexts. What would you like to add, Jana?
Well, the framework really places a strong emphasis on professionalization and professionalism in lifelong guidance as a foundation for quality and credibility in service delivery. Professionalism is understood as the combination of knowledge, skills, attitudes, values, and qualifications needed to provide effective and ethical guidance. It also refers to the broader process of professionalization, an ongoing improvement of services, tools, and the public recognition of the career development field. One central feature is the development and use of competence frameworks. These frameworks define the core and specialized competences practitioners must have, ensuring consistency across sectors such as education, employment, and social services. The core competences include cognitive, functional, personal, and ethical competences, ensuring that practitioners are not only knowledgeable and skilled, but can also conduct themselves appropriately and ethically in diverse guidance contexts. Systemic competency refers to the ability to plan and organize one's guidance work as part of regional guidance services in accordance with local needs and operational conditions. The competency frameworks, they serve multiple important functions. They guide the initial and continuous training of practitioners and other staff involved in delivering lifelong guidance. They support quality assurance by clarifying expectations and standards for service provision and practitioner performance. They facilitate a cross-sectoral mobility, allowing practitioners to work effectively across different fields, and they offer tools for self-assessment, encouraging a culture of lifelong learning and professional development among practitioners themselves. The guidelines also highlight the importance of research in supporting practitioner professionalism. Research is essential not only for developing evidence-based training content, but also for informing everyday guidance practices and shaping broader system developments. Engagement with research helps practitioners critically reflect on their work, adapt to societal changes, and contribute to the continuous improvement of services. Good practice, according to the framework, involves integrating competence frameworks into national and local policy, supporting lifelong learning for practitioners, ensuring ethical standards, and fostering multi-professional cooperation. It also stresses the importance of collecting data on the professionalization of services to evaluate impact and inform future policy development. Investing in professionalism of guidance practitioners through competence frameworks, research info training, and strong systemic support is essential for delivering high quality, user-centered lifelong guidance that is able to meet the evolving needs of individuals and society. Thank you.
Thank you, Jana. Now I want to turn to Pedro. And Pedro, as Jana has mentioned, really focusing on quality provision and the competence frameworks and training practitioners, research is important. But at the end of the day, what is crucial also is that we provide access and that the accessibility in career development support is realized according to the needs of the diverse groups of service users. So can you share your insights on the framework and the guidelines that you know in relation to improving access to career learning? So the links to acquiring career management skills and other outcomes maybe of the career guidance process. And we are running out of time, so I don't know if you will have time to kind of talk us about the variety of time. But I know well that you can handle, put a lot of information in little time. Thank you, Pedro.
So thank you for the challenge, and it's very good to be here. No, I think I always like the fact that career management skills are really central element in the European framework since the resolution in 2008. They really, they were the main principle, the first principle, and it's the first guideline as well here. And I think what the guidelines do is that they emphasize the sort of flexibility and empowerment dimension that comes with putting the emphasis on career management skills. We're talking about skills which allow careering in a lot of diverse contexts for a lot of diverse individuals and groups. And we are talking about also a type of skills that go beyond simply seizing career opportunities in a mechanistic way. So we're talking about skills that allow to explore local opportunity structures, find resources, leverage networks, know oneself, creating work-life balance. And I think that the guidelines reflect this ongoing discussion successfully, and it's integrated in the principles rather than just being sort of a list that is also in there. And I think that allows to transcend the limitations as well of conventional services. A lot of services are caught up in information and advice, in treatment of individual gaps, when we need to, of course, move on to a potentials-based approach. So I think that the guidelines are really paving a bit the way to try to do that, which is obviously extremely important, as Antonio was referring at the beginning, in a fluid society with volatile labor markets, where people, as is so much discussed, need more autonomy, resilience, need to seize lifelong learning opportunities. But flexibility also needs structuring. So basically, we need learning outcomes also to be successful in the interventions that are used, the programs that are developed to address this diversity, and to enable sort of also a structured pathway for the individuals in diverse situations. And the reference of learning outcomes is very clear as well in the guidelines, and I really salute that. Just very quickly on this the diversity of groups. Of course, we're talking about standard environments for career guidance services, so education and training and public employment services. But as has been mentioned, we have a growing nexus of opportunities for development of career guidance. Lifelong learning is appearing. We have growing platforms that offer micro-credentials, recognition or validation of prior learning. We also have guidance appearing in social protection programs. And one of the things that the guidelines also do is to put some emphasis on referrals across services, and also the need to enhance partnerships so that these connections are more successful. I think that there is still a bridge to another aspect, again, going back to what Jana was saying. This, of course, will have an impact over skills needs of professionals, because more and more we will have this pressure for acquisition of knowledge and skills and career guidance in professionals that normally do not intervene in this area.
Thank you, Pedro. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things to unfold in there in a very short time, so thanks for that. I want now to go to Emma, and I mean, Pedro has kind of touched upon the issue of the diverse set of groups and how kind of the different societal changes, let's say, and how we kind of the skills of different professionals, and how still we need this structural, flexible, but still organized way. So going back to the kind of governance and cooperation, in what way do you see that? I know that in Slovenia, you are having, and it is common in many European countries, the demographic changes and that you are experiencing in Slovenia, the digital and clean transition. So in what way do you see that this kind of affect how coordination, governance, and cooperations are important, let's say, to address these wider challenges that Pedro was talking about, the new changing context?
Thank you. Well, as you said, Slovenia, like many other countries in Europe, but also wider, is navigating rapid demographic changes, skills shortages, accelerating digital and green transition. So this is kind of context that guidance cannot be effective if delivered in isolation. It must be embedded in national strategy, all kinds of, maybe for lifelong learning, even an umbrella national strategy, skills development, employment, social inclusion, and other strategies that we have on a national level, but also in others on European level. Slovenia, we are strengthening somehow cross-sectoral cooperation to build more coherent and responsive system. One of these example is certainly pertaining to coordination of efforts and leadership. This is National Expert Group for Lifelong Career Guidance, which brings together representatives from multiple ministries and national institutions like PES University, with career centers, education institutes, adult education institute, for example, VET Institute. So this helps reduce fragmentation, promotes also policy alignment, and supports shared strategic planning. For another illustration is also that maybe in our country, the most mature model of personalized, locally accessible, and user-centered guidance is adult education, guidance in adult education. So where the public, which is organized as public service and coordinated by the National Institute for Adult Education, implemented throughout adult education centers on the field, is free of time constraints, embedded in communities, and delivered by highly qualified professionals. So these are some examples of well coordination, I would say, and good practices on a policy level, but also on a practical level among practitioners and professionals that they run the development of it. I would certainly promote and stand by that these guidelines must be embedded in also in European documents and initiatives, as they were listed at the beginning when Aline had been talking about, but also for the speakers.
Okay.
This would be it from my side.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you, everybody. It's been really rich, really interesting. We'll move on. Thank you for sharing a little bit about the developments in Slovenia. You mentioned career information, and Pedro, we're a little bit, we will have to ask you to be a tiny bit shorter, but coming back to you a little connected to what you said before, could you tell us the role of, the connection to career information, namely, labor market information, and assisting all these diverse service users in understanding the labor market, and if time through their experience. If you can squeeze that in 2 minutes. Thank you. You're muted. You're muted, Pedro. Thank you.
Okay, I just lost 5 seconds, so I'll try to be concise. I mean, you have a full guideline dedicated to this, which I think it's important, and I think the guideline reflects what the discussion is, which is, yes, career information is extraordinarily useful, but, so it's a yes but discussion. So people need it to make informed decisions. It needs to be embedded in career guidance, but it needs quality. So it means you need good labor market information behind it. You need granularity, you need reliability, you need forward-looking information. You also need several sources, need diversification of this information. And this goes hand in hand with the development of labor market information systems. So there's room for policy coordination there. It's useful, but it needs to be accessible. That's also reflected in the guideline. It needs to be adjusted to the needs. So it needs to be actually skills intelligence as per Cedefop terminology. So this means that it's adapted to delivery modes, to diverse delivery modes and contexts. So for example, if it's in a certain type of online platform, it needs to have a certain shape, be delivered in a certain way. And again, it's important that you also leverage, let's say, the automation, the AI component for tailoring to individuals. These days, this is important. But again, and this, you need to have an ethical way of dealing with this. You also need to not neglect the professional support that comes along, professionalized support that needs to come along with good usage of career information. And I think the guideline reflects these aspects.
I have to unmute now. Thank you very for those brief but really important interventions. And I think there's some links in the chat that will be shared to some of Cedefop's information on skills intelligence. So speaking of smooth transitions, now we're going to have a little buffer, but we're going to move quickly now to panel 2. We had a really rich, thank you very much to the panel 1 speakers. We had a really rich interaction there, and it was, very much on point. So we will now introduce panel 2. We are moving closer to the ground. The panel 2 speakers can turn on their cameras now. We are moving closer to the ground, to the frontline service users and guidance providers, and also touching again on the question of research. So let me introduce our esteemed speakers who can turn on their cameras. Maybe I can't see all of the speakers' cameras because we are so many today. Are they on, Ernesto?
I believe so. Let's go on.
Okay, so we have first Nikos Drossos. And he is an associate professor of career guidance and counseling in the European University of Cyprus. He has also scientific responsible for the day centers for psychosocial support of workers and the specialized office for supported employment in West Athens here in Greece. So we do have a speaker here in Greece. We also have Christina Mazalin. a senior advisor at the Croatian Public Employment Service in the central office in Zagreb, Career Guidance and Education Department. We also have our Careers Net Core expert for Poland and working group member. I'm not sure of the spotlighting. Okay.
I think Nikos is having some trouble with the.
Okay, he's having still
with
some
the
difficulty
camera.
with the camera. Okay. Let's see if somebody could help him, please, in the staff. Yes.
Last I heard from him is that it was okay, but
it was working. Okay.
But we can move on and we'll try to figure out when he has to talk.
Okay.
So
yeah. Technology. Yeah, we're sort of doing the best we can. Please bear with us. So finally, we have our Careers Net Core expert for Poland, a working group member as well. I have difficult Jerzy Bielecki. No, not too bad. At the Education Research Institute, National Research Institute in Poland. And I wanted to recognize also the Polish presidency now. So we felt it was a good choice to have a speaker covering Poland. So we started with Slovenia and we have Poland this year. So let's start with the case of Poland. In fact, in the country record in the Lifelong Guidance Inventory for Poland, which participants can read. Hopefully it will appear there in the chat. The skills strategy is described, is outlined, and then you have links where you can follow if you want more information, which recognizes the importance of career guidance across many settings, across public institutions for children, young people, and adults across contexts. So can you share how this relates to the question of quality training for career practitioners who work in different settings? And as I understand, you're also a qualified practitioner as well. So you wear different hats. So, and if there's time, maybe you can mention something about ICT policy and lifelong guidance in relation to professionalism. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the question and thank you for the invitation. And as you mentioned, Poland's skills strategy indeed places a strong emphasis on the importance of career guidance, especially of professionalism of the practitioners. And in Poland, mostly career counseling services are divided in two sectors, education and employment service. Other sectors too, but they're the most main developed. And they have own different framework of competencies. So in labor sectors, they have their own framework. In education sector, we have their own. And in fact, they are very similar, but in a separate documents. And our strategy was developed before the AI revolution. So now it's very important to develop not only tools, but the digital competences of the practitioners. And for effectiveness to use these tools is at first to integration of the tools, because we have each sector have their own platform, so it will be good to manage to maybe in one platform or two, but if even we do it, is now to the time for developing new skills, for maybe not for the new, but virtual counseling or intelligence dashboard, how to use dashboard of data, digital data, how to provide virtual counseling or assisted with the AI tools. All of this can enhance access to guidance, it could be more personalization and continuity of guidance service. So, as I said, this required not just technological infrastructure or new tools, but digital competences among guidance professionals and coordinated investment of also user-friendly and inclusive system, because not only digital competences of professionals, but also of citizens, how if they can use these tools and work with tools by self or assisted by the counselor. And I think is the most important
Thanks.
thing.
Yeah, thanks, Jerzy. We are a little bit pressed on time, so sorry to interrupt. But I'd like to turn to Christina now and to kind of go into the best context. And Christina, in Croatia, you are developing the public employment services, expanding the concept and profile of career guidance practitioners and offering individual and tailored guidance service. So can you tell us about the approach in Croatia to career guidance for tailoring service and a little bit of your views on this?
Of course, thank you. It's a pleasure, first of all, to participate in this webinar among such other experts from different fields and sectors, I would say. So in Croatia, I would say that we, as many other countries, are facing a rapid aging population and also skill shortages in certain professions. So we are tackling these issues for a couple of years now, and I would say that one of the pressing issues is the providing lifelong career guidance and learning opportunities to the older or mature workers. So we are trying to integrate them into the labor market, but not just them. This is the policy or action that is also tailored and delivered to other vulnerable groups. So this touches upon also the a couple of your guidelines, I would say. And what we have noticed that throughout the years, we had different programs, whether through active labor market policy, for example, for women above age of 50, helping them find employment, get back being active in the labor market. And we have also, we're very familiar with the fact that, for example, these vulnerable groups, especially older workers, they're not very keen or prone to ask career guidance services. So we need to attract them, we need to inform them. And as was mentioned before, this can be done different ways and should be done different ways. So for example, we have a special dedicated micro portal for older workers where they can find labor market information that is relevant to them. We also are developing face-to-face services for these vulnerable groups. So this also ties in with the professionalism of the advisors. So we need to also equip our advisors with the right tools to be able to deliver, for example, in-depth interviews with these kind of groups, and especially because these are very specific groups. As for example, older workers, we know that they have a different learning styles, they have different maybe health conditions, and this all impact their readiness to enter the labor market, certain types of employment, and also training programs. So just not to be too long, I would also like to point out that what is crucial is the cooperation with partners, and this is mainly employers. So also raising awareness that vulnerable groups, older workers, should not be discriminated, and employing them or training them for certain jobs has advantages, and in so shaping the policies and shaping the abilities, the opportunities for these people to be provided to them. So we're actually welcoming these guidelines, and we're very looking forward to them once they're into practice.
Thank you. Thank you really very much, Christina, for joining us your first time, I guess, here. And we're really happy to have you with us. And I'm really glad you mentioned the idea of readiness, readiness and also tailoring to the different needs of the clients and focusing on more than just job placement, but in a much broader sense. So we know that one of our other speaker in panel 2, Nikos Drosos, there was some difficulty with the camera. Are you there, Nikos?
If you can hear me.
I can hear you. Okay, so
the camera is on, but I don't know.
It's not working somehow, but the important thing is we can hear you.
Oh, that's good to know. Yes.
So I will move on to you, Nikos, here in Greece or Cyprus. The framework addresses guidance provision for all workers, including those facing the greater barriers or difficulties, formally employed, those in different working and transition contexts. And also we reported some of your the practices you've been engaged with in the lifelong guidance inventory for Greece. Actually, that was Fotini Blakaki who contributed. You have done some important, because Nikos is not the CareerSNet member, but his the work where you'll be discussing today is included in the inventory. So you've done some important work related especially to research on the ground, career guidance for workers, research on the ground, and vulnerable populations in particularly the areas of mental health and supported employment. I know we have a short time today, so there's no time to discuss supported employment, but can you share some insights on these developments with us in Greece related to the policies and services for workers and how your research has informed these expanding practices?
Yes, thank you very, very much. I will try to quickly share with you an innovative initiative in Greece that I think is quite relevant to our field. The Ministry of Health has set up 4 centers for psychosocial support for workers, 3 in the wider Athens area and 1 in Thessaloniki. These centers were launched about 2 years ago in response to the huge shifts happening in the labor market due to the 4th industrial revolution and the digital transformation. The idea is simple. As job roles change or even disappear and workers face increasing pressure, there needs to be real structured support, not just for mental health, but for career reinvention, career reconstruction. These centers bring together career counselors, psychologists, social workers, and psychiatrists, offering a holistic approach. They support everyone, employed, unemployed, freelancers, and especially those in precarious jobs, with services ranging from career guidance and coaching to mental health support to help navigating job transitions or reskilling. It's a recognition that work today is not just about employment, it's about identity and well-being. And it's a great example of how public policy can meet people where they are. In the same spirit, the ministry has also recently established 5 specialized offices for supported employment. These are focused on helping people with severe psychosocial challenges and those on the autism spectrum integrate into the workforce. There are 3 offices in Athens, 1 in Thessaloniki, and 1 in Patras, and they work closely with employers and local services to create personalized support pathways. It's another step forward in creating a more inclusive and responsive labor support system where mental health, social inclusion, and career development are all part of the same conversation.
Okay, that was really informative and interesting and really important, that dimensional aspect of our guidelines, to, let's say, relate to that and to speak to that guideline, and then the importance especially of focusing on this topic in the labor market context and for workers, and also for career learning and I like what you said about it being part of the same conversation. So thank you very much. Because we're a little bit short on time, we were going to ask the panel a common question about the usefulness of the framework. I think it's kind of been addressed in one way or another. So we're going to jump right now to the next and final part, and we're going to ask all panelists to turn their cameras on. And we'll have time for, let's see, what do you think?
Maybe
one or two, just one.
A couple of questions, I think. We can try to do a couple if they are not very long. So,
yeah,
I mean, we can, maybe.
Okay, so we had the idea to go sort of crosswise, and the panelists would ask each other questions, and we're going to have to jump ahead. So let's go to let's go to that, and then I'll make my closing really short. And we may go over a few minutes over time, and I think this is okay.
Maybe we can start with Christina. I mean, not a lot of you are going to be able to ask questions, but maybe Christina, you want to go first, maybe, and then we can move to maybe Pedro.
Yeah, of course. Well, as I mentioned, we are very focused on inclusion of vulnerable groups into the labor market. So I would have a question maybe for Nikos, if he could expand more on how to enable better access of the persons with disabilities, mental health issues to access the labor market, but primarily, first of all, the lifelong guidance services.
Yeah, thank you. To ensure that mental health service users and persons with disabilities have access to quality lifelong guidance, we must go beyond individual support and focus on creating a more inclusive and accessible labor market, especially through effective networking. One key approach is building inclusive labor market networks that connect individuals with supportive employers, mentors, and peers. This can be done through accessible digital platforms, targeted job fairs, peer mentoring programs. Such networks can help individuals gain visibility, share experience, access real opportunities, and equally important is forming partnerships with inclusive employers, those committed to diversity and willing to provide accommodations. Career guidance services should act as bridges between employers and job seekers with mental health conditions or disabilities.
Thank you.
Okay, I think now we will thank you very much for that exchange. I think, and so with one more question, do you think?
Yeah, I think one more question would be okay.
Even two? Yeah, we're not too bad on time.
Yeah, I think we can have two.
So if Emma, you're available, would you like to ask a question?
Well, Finland is a very developed country in sense of guidance, we could say. So my question would go to that, because you launched the framework for competencies for guidance last year, I guess. So how does it work? Because it's very comprehensive and holistic. How does it work in practice, not only on this policy level, but also on the ground, on the field? Thank you, Anna, for your answer.
Well, thank you. Of course, the framework is rather new, but if we look, what did we learn on that process was maybe working effectively with the stakeholders. I would say that it was one of the important part was the building a shared ownership from the beginning on that process. So when stakeholders, including policymakers, practitioners, training providers, researchers, and also service managers, were actively involved in co-designing the tool, then it helped us to strengthen both the quality and also the acceptance of the outcome. So shared ownership ensured that the competence framework is not seen as only as something imposed from above, but rather as a living document that reflects the realities, expectations, and needs across the sectors and service level. Other important lesson is that during such a process, we must allow a dialogue and mutual learning. So different stakeholders bring different perspectives in, and mutual coherence and comprehensive view of the system can emerge. So effective collaboration also required continuous communication, also transparent of goals and clarity on the roles and responsibility. So ultimately, when different stakeholders feel respected, heard, and engaged through the development of the tools like competence framework, I would say that this leads to a stronger, more integrated system and more sustainable implementation and continuous improvement in practice. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward for more experiences. It's going to be useful also and beneficial for other countries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you really very much, Jan. And I think actually we were gonna, in the last part, we were going to discuss a little further and try to link back in with the title of the title of the webinar. But I think that due to the time, we're going to close the panel here because I think it's been very rich. And also we've covered both the productivity aspects of career guidance, support, competitiveness, and also the need to meet the needs of all users, especially the most vulnerable. So I'd like to close now. We're pretty much on time. So we've underlined the importance of structured cooperation for effective guidance system based on common expectations, the value of frameworks and guidelines in general in this respect, and the priority areas in focus. Kept current, frameworks can also be used for inspiration, monitoring, benchmarking, marking, reflections, and discussions, and so on. However, in reality, things are much more complicated, as we all know, and I'm sure the chat is full of discussion like this. Perhaps it's quite complicated, and a framework, however solid, well-grounded, and commonly available and made with care, it fully requires also the willingness of all actors involved and the adequate and sustainable financing and other resources, financial and non-financial, and beyond, to name a few. And it also needs to be remain current and continually updated. This is why we've made let's say, our framework, and our framework covers more than just the guidelines, that it's flexible enough it can handle, hopefully, changes over time. So the guidelines as such will need to be adapted to the specific national context accordingly. Let's say guidelines for stakeholders, because we also will use the guidelines. But as Antonio said in the welcoming, this tool should also facilitate, and importantly facilitate, finding common ground, common language for guidance, and guidance in connection with other initiatives, other services that best support the individual pathways. We will announce when the forthcoming guidelines and new framework are ready, coming soon. We leave it a little bit open to see about the feedback we're going to receive. And then please reach out to us with any questions. And the user also will let you know about the user-friendly tools, which will be available on our portal that Antonio also mentioned. There'll be checklists and so on going across, hopefully, and so that make this more of an interactive and user-friendly tool. Right now, the framework is rather heavy and long, so we'll need to translate that for you. So we look forward to any feedback. This is all I have for you today. And speaking of professionalism, I would really like to thank all the panelists and speakers and our Cedefop staff who really became professional conference producers. So I'd like to thank Ada, our trainee, Christina, Zografia, Maria, who made this all possible. Also, I'm supposed to mention the feedback form is in the chat, as we mentioned. We also have a LinkedIn account you could find for more information on Cedefop, and some of us also have LinkedIn accounts, even if we may be less or more active on them. And you also find the barcode for the newsletter on this page that's going to appear. Yes, there it is. So we have the barcode for the newsletter, so you can sign up for our newsletter. Thank you again for the hundreds of people who've come today and the many more who've registered. So we will be sending follow-up information and links to the video and anything else we're working on in the future. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully I didn't forget anybody. And to our speakers, Aline, Antonio, for welcoming us. And we'll see you again at the next conference.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
You are muted, Emma.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm not muted anymore. You can hear me. Well, actually, could you repeat the question again? I'm so sorry, because I was thinking something else in context, but I lost myself a bit.
Yeah, don't worry. We were just wondering if maybe you had a question for Jana, for example.
Yeah.
If I'm working with.
That was one. Well, Finland is a very developed country in sense of guidance, we could say. So my question would go to that, because you launched the framework for competences for guidance last year, I guess. So how does it work? Because it's very comprehensive and holistic. How does it work in practice, not only on this policy level, but also on the ground, on the field? Thank you, Jana, for your answer.
Well, thank you. Of course, the framework is rather new, but if we look, what did we learn on that process was maybe working effectively with the stakeholders. I would say that it was one of the important part was the building a shared ownership from the beginning on that process. So when stakeholders, including policymakers, practitioners, training providers, researchers, and also service managers were actively involved in co-designing the tool, then it helped us to strengthen both the quality and also the acceptance of the outcome. So shared ownership ensured that the competence framework is not seen as only as something imposed from above, but rather as a living document that reflects the realities, expectations, and needs across the sectors and service level. Other important lesson is that during such a process, we must allow a dialogue and mutual learning. So different stakeholders bring different perspectives in, and mutual coherence and comprehensive view of the system can emerge. So effective collaboration also required continuous communication, also transparent of goals and clarity on the roles and responsibility. So ultimately, when different stakeholders feel respected, heard, and engaged through the development of the tools like competence framework, I would say that this leads to a stronger, more integrated system and more sustainable implementation and continuous improvement in practice. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward for more experiences it's going to be useful also and beneficial for other countries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you really very much, Jan. And I think actually we were gonna, in the last part, we were going to discuss a little further and try to link back in with the title of the title of the webinar. But I think that due to the time, we're going to close the panel here because I think it's been very rich. And also we've covered both the productivity aspects of career guidance, support, competitiveness, and also the need to meet the needs of all users, especially the most vulnerable. So I'd like to close now. We're pretty much on time. So we've underlined the importance of structured cooperation for effective guidance system based on common expectations, the value of frameworks and guidelines in general in this respect, and the priority areas in focus. Kept current, frameworks can also be used for inspiration, monitoring, benchmarking, marking, reflections, and discussions, and so on. However, in reality, things are much more complicated, as we all know, and I'm sure the chat is full of discussion like this. Perhaps it's quite complicated, and a framework, however solid, well-grounded, and commonly available and made with care, it fully requires also the willingness of all actors involved and the adequate and sustainable financing and other resources, financial and non-financial, and beyond, to name a few. And it also needs to be remain current and continually updated. This is why we've made let's say, our framework, and our framework covers more than just the guidelines, that it's flexible enough it can handle, hopefully, changes over time. So the guidelines as such will need to be adapted to the specific national context accordingly. Let's say guidelines for stakeholders, because we also will use the guidelines. But as Antonio said in the welcoming, this tool should also facilitate, and importantly facilitate, finding common ground, common language for guidance, and guidance in connection with other initiatives, other services that best support the individual pathways. We will announce when the forthcoming guidelines and new framework are ready, coming soon. We leave it a little bit open to see about the feedback we're going to receive. And then please reach out to us with any questions. And the user also will let you know about the user-friendly tools, which will be available on our portal that Antonio also mentioned. There'll be checklists and so on going across, hopefully, and so that make this more of an interactive and user-friendly tool. Right now, the framework is rather heavy and long, so we'll need to translate that for you. So we look forward to any feedback. This is all I have for you today. And speaking of professionalism, I would really like to thank all the panelists and speakers and our Cedefop staff, who really became professional conference producers. So I'd like to thank Ada, our trainee, Christina, Zografia, Maria, who made this all possible. Also, I'm supposed to mention the feedback form is in the chat, as we mentioned. We also have a LinkedIn account you could find for more information on Cedefop, and some of us also have LinkedIn accounts, even if we may be less or more active on them. And you also find the barcode for the newsletter on this page that's going to appear. Yes, there it is. So we have the barcode for the newsletter, so you can sign up for our newsletter. Thank you again for the hundreds of people who've come today, and the many more who've registered. So we will be sending follow-up information and links to the video and anything else we're working on in the future. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully I didn't forget anybody. And to our speakers, Aline, Antonio, for welcoming us. And we'll see you again at the next conference.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.